generosity, kindness, acceptance. These are all themes that emanate from today's service. Today's story was a perfect example of these values that we as Unitarian Universalists hold dear. When I was a kid in the religious education program here at church, we read the story of Stone Soup. While the teachers were probably hoping the takeaway would be a life lesson, well, the only thing I gained was an appetite from that, and what my parents gained, well, was the lesson of gratitude for the donut table. Stories are important tools to educate both children and adults. Now that I'm older, I see the story from a different perspective. The villagers showed kindness in welcoming and providing shelter to the strangers, even though they didn't feel that they had food to share. The strangers offered to share what they had, stories from the road. And they did, although they maybe did in a way different from what the villagers expected. This story, in which the strangers spin a tale to teach the villagers different values, not only gets everyone a meal. We have to remember that without the strangers' direction, no one would have eaten. The sharing of food represents the sharing of our ideals and values. By eating and exchanging stories and food, the villagers and strangers accept one another. By each group giving what they had, like the villagers' vegetables or the strangers' charisma, the result was something that no individual could have achieved by themselves. There's a question here, however. Why would the villagers do this? The answer that may jump out at you is they were tricked. Now, if they were tricked, why would this be a parable to teach children? We asked this new generation, the children of this church, how the stone was magic. Or was the soup actually created by the villagers' acts of generosity, acceptance, and kindness? I think the first villager might have believed in the magic, but I like to believe that the others were making a conscious choice and made the contribution from their hearts. When the villagers watched members of their community stepping forward, they felt a desire to contribute. Some of them probably looked at their own behavior and reflected on their core beliefs and values. Whether it was a desire to help others or others who led by example, or maybe one's own conscience, the villagers began to give of their own free will. They learned that generosity is rewarding, and this positive reinforcement led them to independently be generous, kind, and accepting. At first, the strangers could be accused of trickery. In hindsight, I think that the strangers directed the villagers to the right path, and they made the choice to walk down it themselves. The character's transformation from beginning to end demonstrated the change that can take place in all of us. Community provides guidance. It provides strength. It is a support system, but in the end, you make the decision yourself. To prepare for my homily, I looked over past homilies and testimonials, youth Sunday scripts, and various other Unitarian Universalist media. I began to see an interconnectedness between values such as generosity, kindness, acceptance, and the community that has fostered these values. The same themes, the values, kept on appearing across generations. The values I thought were unique to our group, that were unique to myself, were in fact not. That's when I had a realization. There is an invisible string that connects all of us together. Who we are is not just the YRUU class or this generation. Who we are, what connects us and gives us these values, is Unitarian Universalism, our community, an integral part of who we are. It supports us and makes us different. It fosters our growth and open-mindedness. We learn to love without restraint. We learn to be radically inclusive. We learn how to carve our marks on the world with the values we have received. Today, I charge you to lead by example, through actions and words. put forward our values that make us Unitarian Universalists. Be generous, be accepting, be kind, love without restraint, be radically inclusive, and welcome the strangers of the world.
The other night, I had a dream where I was underwater. I jumped into the water and I started to swim down this vast, dark blue sea until I found a staircase. I began to run up this staircase, and still underwater, I could breathe perfectly. In my dream, I started to question the logistics of this all. A, why the heck was I climbing stairs underwater? And question B, a little more tedious, why did I choose to engage in this challenging, mysterious adventure, rather than just float back up? In dream analysis, water normally represents your spiritual or religious journey. When I woke up that morning, that image of my body easily gliding through the water stuck with me. The idea of running through the water, as difficult as it was challenging, but I had all the tools to do it, all the air needed. My name is Giovanni Kanter, and I'm here to tell my story, to speak my truth regarding my journey as a Unitarian. 18 years. That's how long I've been attending this church. That totals to about 648 days, 1,296 hours in this very building, not that I'm counting. That is a lot of time spent in one place. But only 2 years ago did I make the decision to deepen my personal understanding of my religion. My position at church started to change. I became worship coordinator and then soon the president of the youth group. I started actively listening to the wide range of ideas and thoughts around me in the church a little more. I began to question for myself what Unitarianism means to me. I became fed up with the notion of people asking me what Unitarians believe and giving them the easy answer that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Oh, it's a really open religion. We can believe anything. Now, without discrediting the truth in that, I sought a deeper meaning. This year, I had the unbelievable opportunity to be a part of our church's UU pilgrimage to Northeast India. We were going to meet some of the 10,000 Unitarians in that region. The notion that God is not a burden stuck with me from that trip. That's a direct quote from one of the ministers in the village. God is not a burden. For me, this means that you have everything you need already inside you. That whatever God or form of God you are looking for in your life, you already have. You just have to be willing to open your heart to it. That moved me. These people welcomed the mystery of God through their hearts with open arms and no shame. My heart was opened. I started praying and reading and seeing this rich, full side of Unitarianism that I never experienced before. I started taking these dives, just like in my dream, going deeper and deeper into this dark, blue sea of wonder and curiosity that welcomed me fully. What do I believe? What does God do for me in my life? Now, spiraling back up this staircase, the phrase, "The quest of truth is its sacrament," is a stronger part of me. A few months ago, I was talking with my grandma about college essay ideas. We were going through quotes and we came upon this one. "If a man believes and expects great things of himself, it makes no odds where you put him," by Thoreau. I was taken aback by how relevant this quote was in my life. For in my life, I've chosen to create my experiences in a very deliberate way. I've chosen to live my life the way I want to live. So I tell this to my grandmother, expecting to get, some kind of big praise or reaction. She replied, "You think that's a coincidence? Look at the people you're surrounded with, your church." That was a moment where my world was completely turned around. Are my thoughts and ideas just mine, or are they a result of my environment? I'd always been a very independent thinker, but this was a moment where I realized the actual impact this church has had on my life. This is what my dad would call the myth of spiritual autonomy. meaning we think we are on this journey alone, that our thoughts and beliefs are solely ours and no one else's, but in fact, it is the exact opposite. This church and all its values has impacted me and shaped me in ways I'm still unaware of. I'm constantly finding pieces of myself in this place, and this is only the beginning. My inherent belief in people's goodness, asking the question, what makes a full life? My acceptance of the mystery of God and life, all without easily made assumptions. I come to church every Sunday to see a classroom of smiley teens, advisors with a plate full of donuts and a hug ready for whoever needs it. I come to church every Sunday to be welcomed by a congregation who supports each other. And I thank you all for being part of that impact. To have my thoughts challenged, to be pushed through my heart, not my head, to learn, to question, and reflect. I come to church because here I am part of something so much bigger than myself. A church where love is the doctrine and the quest of truth is a sacrament. So as I continue to dive deeply and climb back up through my spiritual life, searching for my truth as a Unitarian, I testify.